Madam Clerk, you ready? Okay. Let's call to order. This is going to be Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting for City of Port Richey, Tuesday, June 8th. I'm going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chairman Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Member William Dittmer.
Here.
Member Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Member Todd McClary.
Here with a broken microphone.
Member Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager John Duke.
Here. Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve board minutes.
Motion to approve.
Is the first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Comments from the general public? No one signed up. By a show of hands, would anyone like to speak? Seeing no hands, we're going to move on to comments from City Manager. Mr. Dude, anything?
No, sir.
We have comments from the board. None from my seat.
No.
Okay. And we're going to move on to board business. There's only one item. It's a discussion on the CRA boundary change, and I'm going to pass that to Mr. Duke for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This board had asked me to investigate the cost estimate for changing the boundary to the CRA. With Mr. Matthews' assistance, we've reached out to our CRA legal expert. Their estimate is approximately $5,000 to do the preparatory work for this board to consider changing the boundaries of the CRA. And so I called the meeting, put it on the agenda so that for your consideration and discussion, looking for your guidance as to whether to proceed with that or some other direction.
The one thing I wanted to ask.
Can I get a clarification?
Yes, of course.
Are these physical boundaries or operational boundaries? What kind of boundaries? It says there's possible redevelopment agency boundaries. What kind of boundary changes are we going for?
That's the redefinition. Yeah, that's the elimination of Harbor Point for the taxing.
Got it.
The question is, and we don't have our finance director here, I wanted to know what that means. How much
We get less money.
Well, we get less money, but how much less money? Because
Not that much.
No.
but that's what I want to know, because I think that is not that we shouldn't do it, but we should know what that is, and then whether or not it's cost effective. In other words, if we're talking $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 and it's going to cost that much to change it, it's not real cost effective. It doesn't make any sense to me, other than maybe by principle from the county.
Satisfy the principle of the
So-
request.
Okay, so here we go again. This is one of the items I've discussed about the little poking at. We can run the numbers, but it's not going to be that much to have it. We'll spend close to what it's going to.
It's going to be $10,000, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to spend $5,000, we're going to lose $10,000, and we're going to make them happy.
And what I was going to recommend.
Is it really going to make that much?
What I
Know
was
what makes anybody happy anymore.
What I was going to recommend is, obviously that means we pay 10 grand less in, which is fine. That amount of money really doesn't merit too much of a battle or discussion in my mind. The question is whether or not it does for them either. So what I was going to suggest is to have Mr. Duke contact Mr. Biles and say this is what we would be saving, put it on your agenda, and do you guys really want us to go through this whole procedure for 10 grand? And then see where they're at with it once they actually have the numbers.
Here's, yeah,
That's fine.
Or worse yet, they'll say that's it. And, more of the question, that's it? You mean only 10 grand? And then my guess is whether we, and I don't know you could speak more to attorneys' billings and that sort of thing, but, you know, is it $5,000 for Harbor Point and one other area if they want to go for it? Or, you know, if Harbor Point does not satisfy the county and they're still pulling at the thread, as the case may be, if it's Harbor Point plus whatever, logical elimination, and it's all for the same $5,000, is that a better spend of our $5,000 instead of going back to the well again because they're not happy and they want another $10,000 out of us, and then we're now.
I can almost guarantee when they hear it's down the road, they're gonna want us to put somewhere.
That's what I'm thinking.
Guaranteed. Now, whether that's covered the $5,000, I doubt it. Two separate things, it's probably all boundary different.
But is it the same kind of filings?
But I don't want to do this multiple times either, so
Yeah,
this
I
is-
don't want to keep spending $5,000 every meeting that we have, so I would rather, you know, if we're gonna,
Well, if that's what you're saying, and they came back and said, hey, we want to take, we want to take the south side around the river out and maybe some other places, is that something you're willing to entertain anyways? Because
no, then we don't have to
so-
spend the $5,000.
What they're gonna want to do is say, okay, Harbor Point's only gonna generate us 10, so let's move the boundary up. Now I'm picking all Sandhill. And, you know, that's
Well,
what's gonna end up happening.
and-
The number, they wanna pay us, they wanna give us less.
Yeah, well, they want to give us zero. At the end of the day, they want to go to zero, is their ideal
The
scenario.
most expensive area, hopefully that would be the biggest hit.
But my question is, let's say we were to approve this right now, $5,000, take out Harbor Point, and then we're all done, and then a month later, the county says, well, no, we were thinking much more than $10,000 of eliminate. Now it's keep chunking.
Yeah,
up
but
what
they've
makes them
never talked
happy.
in terms of money. They just said, this area doesn't belong there, would you please fix it? And that's been the gist of what we've been told since I've been there.
That's what we've been told. I guarantee it comes down to numbers. I guarantee that they want us to cut a bigger chunk. So I agree. I think we should go back and say, hey, we've reviewed this and it's only a $10,000.
Well, maybe not even say the $10,000 part. Maybe just say, hey, we've got the pricing, we've got Harbor Point, we've taken out Harbor Point. Is that, and don't mention, obviously they could theoretically watch this TV show right now, but just say, is Harbor Point it? Are you guys happy with Harbor Point? Don't talk dollars per se, and see if that's the end of the discussion.
Well, the other issue is we've already kind of indicated we would do this. So I think.
Well, yeah, we're kind of telling them that, yeah, we're all ready to go, guys. Are you done?
Fine, do it. If we don't come back and say, let's do this again for a different area because that wasn't big enough.
Yeah, a year or two down the road, I
Yeah.
agree. So we're doing this just to pacify,
Well, it's not
The
just to
county.
pacify them. They're saying that, look, there's certain areas in your city where there's no blight, so they shouldn't be within the boundaries. And they pulled out a map. I went to the meeting. They pulled out a map, and they had the gated area and where that Harbor Point is. And they said, these are all $1 million homes. There's no blight there. There's no reason they should be in there. So we talked about it. We said, we agreed. Okay, so we'll take it out. But my argument was, even where there's nice waterfront homes in our community, there's still homes that are in the 70s that are beat up and may need CRA money. So that was my point to them is, yeah, maybe that gated area is a very small area where we don't, but the rest of our city has things that are mixed in. You'll see, and this is one of the only places I've ever been around or lived, where you'll have a $500,000, $600,000 home, and then next to it there'll be a home that is,
Less.
well, it just needs updating.
much less.
Let's be nice, say less.
Sure.
So do we just bite the bullet and say we did what you requested and pay the $5,000?
Well, we've said we're going to do that, so I don't see where we shouldn't do this.
Well, I think maybe the conversation between Mr. Dute and Mr. Biles, not that he needs another thing to do, is, hey, we're ready to pull the trigger, just like we said. We're keeping up our end of the bargain. Are you guys keeping up your end of the bargain and being happy with Harbor Point?
Well, we could just do it, and then if they come back, we'll say we've already done this. We don't want to we don't want to revisit it too. That's the other way to go. That's where I'm at with it.
I'm like, let's do it, get it over with. They requested it, we said we would do it, we did it. If it's not what they thought, then we should.
I just hate to waste money, and that's where
I agree.
that's my problem. Government waste is one of the things that bothers me, and that's what this is. And we've agreed to do it, and I thought it would be a lot more money, and it turns out not to be that way. But I
it
think,
keeps an attorney employed.
but for the county to go through as much time and trouble as they have to save 10 grand, it's just, I'm just surprised.
Yeah, if you want to save 10 grand, it costs less money.
Right. But that's fine, we said we would do it, so I think we're compelled to do it.
I just say we just do it, we fulfilled our obligation to the county's request. And if they come back with something else, then we'll have to revisit the whole thing.
You
But
know,
are we positive it's 10 grand that they're
I think
talking?
it's less.
It's in that area.
Yeah, it's around 10 grand.
Because that's why I was asking our finance director, because I think she ran the numbers, but she must have.
Well, it's done
Relay that
by
information.
area, not by house or anything of that nature, was my understanding.
Tax-based and
Yeah.
it's the number of houses and divide it back
Right.
down.
And that's the analysis that Rachel ran to come up with that number.
And honestly, now's the time to do it while there's still vacant lots back there.
Yeah, right.
Motion to spend $5,000 for redefining the boundary of the CRA.
Any need for any discussion? Anyone in the general public have anything? Seeing no hands, put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And that puts us back to any old business. Hearing no old business, looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.